The galaxy had always belonged to the ancients, civilizations so old that their histories were written in the very stars. The Serenith Empire, masters of space-bending technology, had mapped entire galaxies and seeded countless worlds with life. The Auroch Enclave, beings of living light, had transcended physical form and moved between dimensions at will. The Carey Dominion, vast and militant, had forged an empire across 1,000 star systems, their war fleets unmatched for millennia. To them, time was slow, measured in epochs, and new species were little more than flickers, brief lights that appeared and vanished, scarcely noticed. Humanity was just one of those flickers. By the time humans discovered faster than light travel and began to push into the stars, the ancients barely took note. Earth's arrival on the galactic stage was unremarkable. Another species joining the swirling mass of younger races that jostled for space on the fringes of the known universe. The Galactic Accord, an agreement maintained by the ancients to prevent conflict between the lesser races, allowed humanity access to the stars, but it came with strict limitations. Humans were bound to a narrow corner of the galaxy, their colonies confined to a few scattered systems. But what the ancients and other established races did not understand was that humanity did not seek dominion, nor did they crave power as other species did. What drove humans was something deeper, something the elder races had forgotten across the eons, an insatiable desire to explore, to push boundaries, to create and to understand. Where the ancients sought to preserve their stagnant empires, humanity sought the unknown. In their curiosity, they saw no limits, only opportunities. As humanity spread through the stars, they encountered other young species, struggling to find their place in a galaxy dominated by forces far older and more advanced. They found the Ranith, a desert-dwelling race of nomads who had been oppressed by the Kari for centuries. They found the Vedic, brilliant engineers and craftsmen who had been isolated by Serenith bureaucracy. They found the Thal, a peaceful aquatic species whose homeworld had been exploited for resources by the Auroch. In every case, humanity did something the ancients did not expect. They helped. While the Serenith and Kari turned their attention to safeguarding their own interests, humanity formed alliances. They traded technology, shared knowledge, and most importantly, they offered hope. The Ranith learned to defend themselves with Terran weaponry. The Vedic, inspired by human innovation, developed new forms of starship technology that could bypass Serenith restrictions. The Thal, with human aid, began rebuilding their devastated oceans. It wasn't long before these species, who had once been scattered and isolated, began to work together. And at the heart of it all, leading the quiet revolution, was humanity. For a time, the ancients paid little attention to the growing influence of the Terrans and their allies. The Serenith, secure in their position as the galaxy's intellectual rulers, dismissed humans as short-lived dreamers. The Auroch, uninterested in the material universe, considered them inconsequential. The Kari, seeing humanity as no immediate military threat, continued their wars of expansion, assuming the Terrans would eventually fall in line. But then came the Great Collapse. No one knew where it came from or how it had been triggered, but deep in the heart of the galaxy, an ancient mechanism, a weapon, a machine, or perhaps something beyond understanding, began to tear reality apart. Whole systems vanished into dark voids of space. Stars flickered and died. Black holes opened where stable planets once orbited, consuming everything in their path. It was a cataclysm on a scale the galaxy had not seen in a billion years. The ancients, despite their knowledge, were helpless. Their vast civilizations, so carefully maintained, began to crumble. The Serenith, with their mastery of space-bending technology, could do nothing to stop the anomaly from spreading. The Auroch, beings of pure energy, could not contain the collapse of physical space. And the Kari, with all their military might, could not fight a force that devoured whole armadas in an instant. Panic gripped the galaxy. For the first time in eons, the ancients were afraid. It was in this moment of existential crisis that humanity stepped forward. Dr. Ilara Nevins, a Terran scientist, had spent her life studying the strange, uncharted corners of space that others avoided. Where the Serenith had focused on refining their understanding of known phenomena, Ilara and her team had ventured into the unknown, pursuing wild theories that had been dismissed by the elder races. And it was this willingness to explore beyond the boundaries of accepted knowledge that gave humanity a fighting chance. Alara's research suggested that the Great Collapse was not a natural phenomenon. It was a ripple caused by an ancient artifact, a remnant of a forgotten civilization that predated even the ancients. It had been hidden in the core of the galaxy, dormant for eons until some unknown event triggered it to activate. According to her calculations, the anomaly could be neutralized, but only if the source could be found and shut down. No one believed her at first. The Serenith, in their arrogance, refused to entertain the idea that a young race like humanity could offer any meaningful solution to the crisis. The Kari dismissed the theory as fantasy, insisting that brute force was the only way forward. The Auroch, disconnected from material concerns, showed little interest in intervening at all. But humanity had no time for skepticism. Alara and her team, supported by the Terran Federation, gathered a coalition of allies. The Ranith, the Vedek, the Thal, and several other species who had found new hope in their partnerships with Earth. Together, they launched an expedition into the heart of the galaxy, racing against time to locate the source of the Great Collapse. As the fleet drew closer to the core, the dangers multiplied. The gravitational anomalies created by the collapse were tearing apart space-time itself, making navigation almost impossible. Stars were being ripped apart, and entire systems vanished in the blink of an eye. Yet the coalition pressed on, driven by a single shared purpose: to save the galaxy from destruction. Finally, after weeks of perilous travel, they reached the core. There, they found the artifact, an immense, ancient structure, half buried in the collapsing remnants of a dying star. It was a relic of a civilization so advanced that its purpose defied understanding. But Alara had a plan. Using a combination of Terran technology and Vedic engineering, they devised a way to interface with the artifact and shut it down. It was a dangerous gamble. The artifact's energy output was beyond anything they had encountered, and any miscalculation could trigger a collapse that would consume the entire galaxy. But humanity, true to form, took the risk. Alara herself led the final operation, diving into the heart of the structure, surrounded by collapsing space and volatile energy fields. The galaxy held its breath. For hours, there was no word from the core. The fleet, waiting on the edge of the anomaly, could do nothing but watch as the collapse continued to spread. Systems fell into darkness, and hope began to wane. But then, in a sudden burst of light, the collapse halted. The artifact's energy dissipated, and the anomaly began to stabilize. Alara's team had succeeded. The Great Collapse was over. In the aftermath of the crisis, the galaxy changed. The ancients, once the unquestioned rulers of the stars, were forced to acknowledge that they were no longer alone at the top. Humanity, through its ingenuity, courage, and unrelenting drive, had saved the galaxy from certain doom. But more importantly, they had united it. The Ranith, the Vedic, the Thal, and countless other species who had once been marginalized and oppressed now stood together, empowered by the alliances they had formed with humanity. The Galactic Accord was rewritten, and the balance of power shifted. No longer was the galaxy governed by the ancients alone. Humanity had become a force to be reckoned with, not through conquest or domination, but through cooperation and shared purpose. And yet, even as humanity rose in prominence, they did not seek to impose their will on the galaxy. Instead, they became the facilitators of a new era, an era of exploration, collaboration, and discovery. The ancients, though still powerful, now worked alongside humanity and their allies, learning from the very species they had once dismissed as inferior. The galaxy had been saved not by technology, not by military might, but by the fire within humanity, the relentless, unyielding desire to push beyond the known, to challenge the impossible, and to never stop reaching for the stars. And as new generations of explorers set out into the vast unknown, they carried with them a simple truth. It wasn't the age of a civilization that defined its greatness. It was the fire within its people that shaped the future.